Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and maybe you got your furry friends, your cats or your dogs sitting right next to you watching this hangout. I'll just double check on YouTube on my separate page here. Yes, we are live. There are lots of people this week waiting for us to come live, and we've got the owner of the company, which is always fantastic that Bill gives his time for us on a Monday night. It's episode number 53. Which in itself is a milestone that we've lasted more than a year, 1 year and 1 week of bringing you live updates on a Monday night here from Brisbane. It's just gone 7 o'clock. It's 10 a.m. in London. It's 11 a.m. in Zurich in Europe, the other part of Europe. So a lot of people just waking up to a Monday the 27th of August 2018. The year has absolutely rocketed past from the highs and now to the lows of what we've experienced in our business. And I want to talk about that tonight quite candidly in response to a bit of information I've seen. But we've got a bit of a new guest. Paul from the Gold Coast he couldn't make it tonight. He's out and about with some people and he won't get back in time. So jumping into his spot is a much younger young man who also lives in Brisbane, and it's we've seen your video. We've posted it in the group before, but Nikolai, say hello to everybody and give us like a 30-minute bio of who you are, what you're doing in Brisbane, and where are you from?
Well, hello there, everyone. I'm Nikolai. I live in Brisbane. I have been in Australia for 3 years already, and in the 3 years time, half of it, probably 7 months, I've been enrolled with cryptocurrency, involving myself with people like Hitty, like Bill, like Claudia. I had the blessing to meet them and to share some good knowledge with them. And I'm here in Australia. I live here, thank God. I have residence. I'm working hard at the moment. I was working hard before, but with kind of no goal. But now I've set my goals, I've set my dreams. I know what I want for my future. And overall, everything what I want is freedom and happiness for myself, which is connected to be free on my time and what do I want to do on, with my knowledge and how do I want to invest my money. So I have had the blessing of having been enrolled with Cisco Global, which is an amazing company of cryptocurrency and studying your money in gold and silver as well. So at the moment, since 6 months ago, I've been working with them and growing my knowledge of learning, growing my learning of how to invest your money and getting ready for that big jump to the digital currencies in the future. So I'm very happy to be here with you guys. I'm very happy to share knowledge through this live video, and I'm pretty sure this is gonna be the start of a more constant participation as a team, because four heads thinks better than mine, or gives more opinion than one. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here, guys. Thank you.
Well, that was a long 30 seconds, Nikolai. I guess you're very relaxed coming from Colombia. The time is just, everything is muchos relaxo, mate, or something like that. You're probably adapting to the Australian way of life. It's pretty well laid back. Can I ask how old you are, mate?
I'm 22.
22. So there you go, folks. There are young people out there who are interested in cryptocurrency, gold and silver, and I might just finish off in a quick question. Who did you go and see on the weekend? You went to a seminar. Can you just tell everyone who you went and saw?
Yeah, so as last Saturday, Robert Kiyosaki came here to Brisbane to have he made a seminar, and I went attend to it to grow my learning more about different assets, different kind of investments. And I really learned a lot of things in there, like eye-opening things of, like eye-opening keys and knowledge of how to, escape the rat race, pretty much. How to stop working for someone and work for yourself, work for your future, work for what you want in your future. So there's a lot of things that we'll talk about later on that I want to share with you guys about this amazing conference, because it's very, very useful.
Very good, mate. Well, let's that's encouraging that a young lad who's a resident in Australia. Everyone wants to live in Australia, even though we change our prime ministers at the moment, like we change our underwear. We just got rid of one, and another one came in 2 days ago. So talk about a stable government that doesn't really exist. So the onus is then thrown back onto us, and that's what I've been reflecting on the last couple of days. That if the powers to be, the so-called government or governing bodies of our country, Australia, are in topsy-turvy, fighting over who's got the best opportunities to take the country forward and who wants to remain in power the longest. And there's fighting within parties, and they chop and change every 2-3 years. That the onus is really on individuals to look after themselves, but not everyone can step up to the plate. And it's really good to see a 22-year-old young lad like yourself, Nikolai, that you take the time to go and listen to Robert Kiyosaki live, to hear the knowledge of people who have gained that experience over many, many years and are prepared to share that experience with people around the world by having seminars. We're in a similar situation, whether you believe it or not, or whether you've thought about it, that the other two people on the panel here, Bill and Claudia, are sharing their knowledge with us on a weekly basis, and it's not costing us anything. It's just a live hangout, or the two hangouts that Bill and Claudia do on a Tuesday and a Saturday for the company that's been running Swiss Gold Global for 10 years. You just sit back and think about that for a minute, that the experience of world leaders such as Robert Kiyosaki, we have our own world leaders in Bill and Claudia who have explained ad nauseum over and over and over and over and over how this business runs, what you should do, what you should not do, and how the business operates week in, week out, week in, week out. And it's a credit to the term that they're so patient and so passionate about the business that they keep this information coming to us all the time. So I, for one, am very, very grateful. I know Nikolai and the team we built here in Brisbane is very grateful. So thank you, Nikolai, for giving us a bit of an insight to for yourself, and welcome to the panel. First time tonight, won't be the last time. You're very good at speaking publicly. I know you're doing your own YouTube videos now, which is great. But here's an experienced person, Claudia. Good morning, guten Morgen, wherever you are. Where are you today? Looks like you're at home, are you?
Morning, Kitty. Yes, I'm back in Germany, so back home. That's where I am. Yes.
And how's the week been for you?
Oh, the week has been actually really great, excellent. I mean, I'd actually like to challenge Nikolai and you guys to do another hangout and talk a little about gold, silver, markets, fundamentals, because Nikolai comes from a very interesting region, which of course is my passion, as you know. So, and lots of interesting things happening, which do affect you, even though you're in far away Aussie land, Kitty there, but it's going to affect you globally. It's going to affect me being in Germany. It's going to affect our listeners in New Zealand and everywhere. And that is, of course, our paper currency. And so I like to do a further, if you're up to, hangout and talking about social environments, how is things going, how is the feeling, how is the overall feeling. I mean, Nikolai in Colombia, which he has been recently back, has been very much exposed to, of course, a changing climate there of Venezuela coming, and lots of people don't really understand it. So maybe we do that in the future.
Sounds good. Sounds good. We need more young people. That's we've got a bit of a team here in Brisbane that you met when you were here a few weeks ago, you and Bill. A few older heads, but there's quite a few young people here as well. So it's always good to have people from different regions from the world that actually live in Brisbane. They can give us world experiences of how their country, how the countrymen are actually living in those conditions. Even though we're changing our prime ministers like our underwear, it's still a reasonably stable environment to work, and there are opportunities still. So yeah, it's great to be able to talk to you guys all over the world. Now, Bill, ex-Aussie, I can't say really ex-Aussie, once an Aussie, always an Aussie, Bill, but living in Switzerland now. I guess you're not surprised at the way things are going in Australia, chopping and changing all the time. Sort of an unstable government. The reliance is thrown back onto people to look after themselves. Any surprises, Bill, or you've seen that over the last 20 years happening?
Hi, it's great to see Nicolai on the call. Great to see your face again, Nicolai. Hi, Claudia. Hi, Keithy. Welcome to everyone joining us in different parts of the world. I don't follow politics. Actually, I do follow politics, but I haven't followed Australian politics for a long time. I lost track. I've been living abroad now for probably 15 years. But I spoke to my 91-year-old mum yesterday, and she told me that I asked her what's going on. She said, well, we've got a change of politicians. Someone it wasn't even voted in, but they just changed things like they changed your underwear, like you exactly said. So it's happened historically as well, which, we see this, of course, but this is the system we live under. But I'm a great believer, and I know Claudia's a great believer. This is what we're taught by Bob Proctor, by Robert Kiyosaki. The big message that Nicolai probably received from Robert Kiyosaki yesterday was to create your own economy, create your own excess. If you think that a government's going to look after you and give you a good life and pay you a strong pension on a socialistic type system, think again, it's not going to happen. So we have to be responsible for our own finances. We have to be responsible for our own life in that respect. And yes, but we also vote governments in. It'd be nice that they just stuck to what we voted them in for instead of changing things. But we know that happens. But no, I'm not surprised. I mean, around the world, of course, the geopolitical situation is very, very bad. And I think people are awakening. I mean, the social media strength around the world, the communication and information is much more transparent today. And when I was a young man, I can think back to the Vietnam War, and so could you probably, Keithy. We were both young guys, a bit young to be going there. We probably just missed out. But the propaganda and everything, nothing has really changed today. When you go to the Middle East, I mean, I rented an office. We have a new office which Claudia has been to in Dubai, and our landlord's actually an Iraqi. A very interesting man, very knowledgeable man. I mean, very knowledgeable man. His history is impeccable. And when you start speaking to people who have a long knowledge and depth of history, you really see the bigger agenda. And he took us to an Iraqi restaurant, very, very beautiful restaurant. The culture, the food, these parts of the world are, thousands and thousands of years old and go back to biblical times. So there's a lot of history there, of course. But oil, of course, has changed the world, and also, of course, I remember Gerald Celente, when Libya was bombed, he said, if the main product was actually broccoli, no one would care less. So, and that's pretty true, of course. And so it's a very complex world. I'm not going to pretend I understand it. It's a very, very complex world that we live in, which means we need to be diversified because governments today are broke. And I'm sure Robert Kiyosaki would have spoken about this yesterday's event, that the governments are broken, particularly America, $20 trillion plus in debt. The world itself has hundreds of trillions of dollars in debt. It can never be paid off. So, primarily historically, fiat currency, paper currency, the Australian dollar. Actually, I saw a report talking about Australia. I saw a report come out only a couple of weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago, regarding Australia. It's probably the most indebted country per capita in the world in debt, household debt, which is surprising because my last hotel and house that I sold was in Brighton, Melbourne, which is a nice affluent suburb. And I was driving around there and I couldn't believe the number of German affluent cars, the lifestyles. But of course, is this owned? Or is it owned by banks? Is it owned by hire purchase? Is it owned by leasing? Who really owns it? And who owns your life? Primarily the bank probably owns your life. And I don't like to be owned by anyone in that respect, especially banks. And but if you're burdened with debt, someone else is actually in control of your life. So that's really my take on where things are, but not just in Australia, all around the world. And the big takeaway, I suppose, that Nicolai would have got is that you've got to be responsible for your finances. You have to think outside the box. You've got to have the courage to be able to do things the contrarian way. The masses won't do it. 95% of people work 40 years, 50 hours a week for 40 years, which is nothing wrong with that. But primarily they retire on a pension that just gets them by. In fact, the day that you retire, your income probably reduces by 75%. and then you're meant to maintain the same sort of quality of lifestyle. It's not possible. So you need to have diversified incomes, and this is something that I realized back in the 80s, and I've been self-employed entrepreneur since 1986, and that was really the motivating factor for me to go out by myself, because I realized when I did the numbers, and mathematics doesn't tell lies, I realized that if you work 40 hours a week to 50 hours a week for 40 years, you're going to trade 100,000 hours of your life. You multiply that by, even in Australia, let's say it's $10, $20 an hour, over 40 years, you're either going to make on a gross income of $1 million to $2 million in gross revenue. Half of that's going to disappear in taxes. Then you've got mortgages, rent, lifestyle to pay for. I mean, it's feasibly not possible to retire and live a good life. And we're living longer today. You know, people like Nikolai's generation are probably going to live to 90 to 100, maybe 105. So they're already making those sort of predictions. My mother's 91. You know, okay, my father passed away in his 50s back in the 70s. But we're living longer, which means if you're retiring at 60, 65, you've got to actually be able to fund that retirement for 30 years, 35, 40 years. And you still want to live on a good lifestyle, don't you? Just because you're retired means you don't want to, all of a sudden your life sucks because you don't have the freedom to be able to visit your grandchildren in different parts of Australia or different parts of the world, to go and do a trip here or a trip there. We want to have total freedom. So cash flow is really, really important. And I'll just touch on this. I mean, many people on this call probably know about it. I first met Robert Kiyosaki personally in 1998. And he was launching his book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, at the Sheraton Hotel in Melbourne. So I went there with my younger brother, Julian, and who Claudia knows, and who Keith knows too, of course. We went to the football together only last month, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. We went and saw Robert Kiyosaki speak, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The ticket cost $50 each. I think there's 1,200 people in the room. At the end of the night, he said, tomorrow morning, I'm going to put on my capitalist hat. I'm going to teach you how to take a private company public, and if you're welcome, you can put money into it and come in with me on the ride. It's high risk. Don't put any money in that you cannot afford to lose. It's going to take probably 5 years. So and the minimum investment was $25,000 US. Back then was about 34,000 Australian. So I invested in that. I invested in a couple of them actually. But a couple of points I want to make from this lesson is that I was open to receive information. I got up the next morning because I thought, wow, 1,200 people in the room. Tomorrow morning, the room's going to be absolutely full. You know, everyone wants to go and hear Robert Kiyosaki speak how to make some extra money, how to diversify, and get involved into a game that traditionally only the bankers, large institutional brokers are involved in. The average person will never get involved with this type of stuff, you know. So I was really keen to sort of learn about this. And whether I had the money or didn't have the money, I was going to be there to learn about it. So I rolled up there very early. And to my amaze, there was only 9 of us that turned up. Out of 1,200 people, only 9 of us turned up, which is really surprising. Sure, many people would have had responsibilities, work and family and different things, but for only 9 to turn up was quite remarkable. Now, I would have turned up no money, you know, had the money or no, didn't have the money, just to learn. But I invested in that. One of them completely failed, lost, but the other one, my children still own those shares today. It's a very well-known Toronto-based, Canadian-based gold company with good reserves. So that's a long-term. They've owned that now 20, 25 years. So it's a long-term hold. But sometimes wealth creation takes a long time, you know. And I see this where the Bitcoin is right now. In one respect, you know, Bitcoin's, I was looking at a chart the other day based on, Claudia speaks quite a bit about this actually, when we're coming to the halving in 2020, meaning that at the moment we actually mine 1,800 Bitcoins per day. And in 2020, it's going to be reduced to 900 Bitcoins per day, which means it's a very limited supply, but the demand is very strong. In fact, I just had a call today with some people about wanting to buy, actually I had a call yesterday and today from a person who had clients who wanted to buy in excess of $100 million worth of Bitcoin, but they couldn't find anyone that wanted to sell it. So I had a call with another group of people who I know and asked them, because they provide liquidity in cryptocurrency, said, well, we have one client that's got about 300 Bitcoin that might be willing to sell it. That's probably around about $2 million in today's value, but it's a long way from $100 million. He said there's a lot of buyers out there at the moment, but there's not a lot of sellers, you know. So it's really interesting. And my point there is On the halving, when the production goes down to, the mine goes down to 900 per day, and this is speculative. This is not saying this is going to happen. But you look at the past trends of the halvings, you know, of all the halvings of the Bitcoins, every 4 years the Bitcoin halves. Right up until now, there's been quite a strong price rally. And based on the technical analysis of this particular character, and I can send you the chart, maybe you want to present it on next week's one, Keithy. I'll be in Dubai. And it shows you the trend, and he calculates the trend, and he says 2023, yes, 2023, 2024, Bitcoin could be at I think he says $160,000 based on the past trends, and he calculates that to the future based on the halving and what the effect it actually has. And if you've been involved in technical analysis, which I wasn't heavily involved in the 1990s, price and time is pretty accurate. You know, it's pretty accurate in one sense. Now, it may be 20% out or this or that, but you can, one thing's for sure, you'll see a certain change. And that's really interesting in that sense. So the point from that is, even if you've mined half a Bitcoin today, hold on to it. Don't liquidate it. Think long term. Just like my children owning these commodity stocks. Okay, it's long term. It's been in the money. It's probably just out of the money at the moment. It'll come back in the money actually for them. All of us have mined X amount of Bitcoin, and I'm certainly not a seller of it. And while nothing is guaranteed here in this new disruptive technology, I'm a believer in holding it with the belief that it's going to have an increase in price because it's just as adoption is accepted. Whether it will be, we don't know. That's the risk that we all sort of got ourselves involved in. Now, on the mining side, of course, we see currently that the mining's not paying on the Bitcoin. And that's because, of course, it's costing more to mine a Bitcoin than what the actual maintenance fee is. And that's part of the terms and conditions. And, of course, we don't want it to be there. I certainly don't want it to be there. I know Claudia doesn't want it to be there. Nikolai and Keithy doesn't want it to be there because we've all put money into this. But that's where it is at the moment. Now, the contracts are not terminated. They are not terminated as of yet. They are still valid contracts. But at the moment, because the Bitcoin price and the Bitcoin price and the difficulty rate means that our reward is less than the exchange, than the maintenance fee. That's why we're not getting paid. So we have time on our side. We still have another 5 or 6 weeks, I think it is. And anything can happen, as I think Claudia used the term the other day. Anything can happen in crypto time. Anything can happen in 24 hours. It can break out, and will break it out either way, actually. But let's see where it goes, and we'll have to deal with it as we get closer to that particular period. But that's pretty much the situation. On an update side, and then I'll pass it back to you, Keithy and Claudia and Nikolai. On the update side, I suppose we're working heavily on the gold and silver, the tokenization of gold and silver, which is really important. We believe it's going to come back into that phase, especially we're talking about, you asked me about Australia, we're talking about geopolitics. It's really incredible seeing what's going on in the world right now. And you see a safe haven like gold, where its price is right now. It's certainly a buyer's market. And many people are aware of this. China is buying up big time. Russia's buying up big time. And we're seeing a huge transfer of wealth from the west to the east. And historically, I mean, there's a saying, whoever owns the gold has the power. So I think, the next, years to come, 3, 5, 10 years, we're going to live in a very different world than what we are living in today, especially in the shift of power. We see countries, now letting go of the US dollar because of various reasons. 1, because of the debt, 2, because of sanctions in many countries and their foreign policies, but they don't want to be controlled by the US dollar anymore, which accounts for probably 75, 80% of the world trade. So, I mean, even Australia, back about 3 years ago, did a $30 billion deal with China so they could trade within their own currencies. They didn't have to trade oil or trade steel or trade aluminium or trade uranium, whatever, using iron ore, using US dollars. They could actually use their own national currencies, sovereign currencies, which is a fair deal. But of course, that doesn't support the policy of the US. So there's lots of stuff going on in the world right now. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. And when there's uncertainty, you've got to be diversified. It's really important to be diversified and have a bit of an understanding of what effect it's going to have on your money. Because I was looking at, and Claudia knows as well, because you spend a lot of time with these people from Venezuela. I was looking at a report this morning from Venezuela, where it costs billions and billions of I think Bolivar is their currency, which is about $1.50 for a kilo of meat. And, their inflation rate now is over 1,000,000%. So you trade your 40, 50 hours of your time today. You go to work in the morning. By the time you finish work, the income you've actually earned has already lost value. And it's sort of a hard comprehension how these things can happen, but it's happened in history. Australia, we've been very spoilt, actually, in one respect, even though we've had high inflation there. We should just look at the prices, the cost of living there over the last 10, 15 years. In fact, if you look at the monetary supply increase in Australia, the Reserve Bank of Australia has probably increased the supply of money there probably 2 or 3-fold. And when you increase the supply of money into an economy, of course, you're going to have price increases. But we think we're getting wealthier because our house prices are going up and this and that. But it's not really the truth in one sense. It's a bit of an illusion. But that's much of the policies around the world. So currencies do fail. And that's why I think Bitcoin is a fantastic thing to be in. Gold and silver certainly. Again, these are insurance policies, long-term vision. So we're working on the tokenization of that. We're also working on something else, which is very, very exciting. Our colleagues are in New York right now doing a particular meeting. I couldn't attend that particular one. So we're looking forward to good news from that, so we can keep bringing out our new concept, new websites, and new name in the later part of October. So that's what we're looking at. So I spoke a lot now, Keithy.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Bill. You've wrapped up everything. You've given us some good insight of what's going on as well, as per usual. And you've hit the nail on the head again a couple of times about wealth, building generational wealth. It's not overnight. Unfortunately, some of our members are looking for overnight success. They're looking for a one-hit wonder, put money in and get 20-fold back within 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and then they complain when they don't get it. And the sad thing is they don't understand the business and haven't bothered to actually find out about the depth of the business and understand exactly what they've got themselves into, which is what you've said from day one. One, don't put in any money that you can't afford to lose. Two, don't believe anything I say. Do your due diligence and find out about Swiss Gold Global. You've repeated these two major points ad nauseum, over and over and over again. Every time I hear you, Bill, that's the two things you say every time. So there's no excuses for these people. They're in a minority, but they tend to talk the loudest, which is unfortunate, about this is not working. Why is it? No one told me this. Why don't we get this information? Why doesn't this happen? It's always pointing the finger of blame at somebody else. 3 fingers pointing back at the real problem. Wealth takes time. You have to do your own jobs, like Nikolai does. He's working 2 jobs while he's building his cryptocurrency portfolio slowly but surely. He's spending money going to listen to experts like Robert Kiyosaki. We listen to experts like Claudia and Bill, who are successful in their own right now after many, many years of doing the same thing over and over and over again. And for a lot of people joining Swiss Gold Global, they're coming out of the mold of working in a job. I don't like that anymore. I want to work for myself online, and I want to make money for myself online so I can change my lifestyle completely and live the life of the rich and famous or people with money. Now, some people look at a person who's driving the latest Mercedes, which the Mercedes that I would never buy a brand new one, but the old one I used to have was a 500 SL Mercedes, a 1991 model. To buy one of those brand new, they're $340,000 for one car, which I'd never buy that because it's a waste of money. But I often see people in these high-powered vehicles. I don't say, well, wow, I wish I was like that person. I think to myself, wow, how do they get the money to buy that car or lease that car and to get to that position? What business are they in? What strategies have they got? And how do they get to that situation? What did they do? I want the information of how they did it so I can learn, even at my age, 60, to get to a situation where I can purchase the car I like, because I've put in place some plans. Now, I put in place plans with Swiss Gold Global over a year ago, and I followed Bill's advice, but I already heard that advice many, many times before in other businesses. Don't put any money into a business that you cannot afford to lose. So the majority of business, I just put a couple of $1,000s in and compound it and work on it, maybe put another couple of hundred and couple of hundred, and build on it and build up and build it and build a small team. That's my situation. And a lot of people I know have done that as well. But unfortunately, some people in my team have come in, not with my advice behind them, and put large amounts, and I'm talking $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 into the business, just throwing money in and not really knowing what they're doing, and then wondering why the contracts aren't paying. It's a real wake-up call for anyone watching that any business you're involved in, exactly what Bill says, the 2 points, you've got to follow them. Don't put any money in you can't afford to lose, and do your due diligence on every single company, including Genesis. Now, I've just dropped in the calculator into the chat box of the people watching. It's the alicecomp.com/Bitcoin calculator. Now, calculated using this just a minute ago, and you put in drop down me terahash, and then the hash rate, you drop in 1, and the exchange rate's 6,700 at the moment, 6,697 or 6,700. So it's slowly creeping up. We need it to actually get to, at today's difficulty rate and the price of Bitcoin as it is, we need it to get to 7,700 US dollars at the moment. But as Bill said, that could change in the next 4 or 5 days. There might be a run, a bull run, people buying. And that's really heartening of what you said, Bill, before, that you just had 2 phone calls with people who want to buy $100 million worth of Bitcoin. That is staggering amounts of money. So why these people get a commit to putting that amount of money into Bitcoin? They obviously know something and we don't, or they have information that they're going to act on to secure wealth in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. They want to get out of a certain amount of their money. Are they risking all that they've got? They've got 100 million. Are they going to risk it everything? I sincerely doubt that. I'd say they'd have a couple of $1 billion and they're just willing to put 100 million in to test Bitcoin. But what a staggering amount of money. Imagine if people, I don't know who's available to sell that many amount of, if you're going to exchange and buy that amount. Obviously not. That's a staggering amount. But that shows that the interest at higher levels is there for us. Those 2 things, knowing what business you're in and having faith in the future of Bitcoin, hearing from Bill firsthand that people actually are putting or wanting to put huge amounts of money in, just astronomical amounts, must give you faith that this industry you're in is heading in the right direction. It is in a lull. That's what I want to get across, Bill, that we've had the whole, we're in a bit of a dip. We've just got to ride it, hang on, have confidence, be faithful, have the strength and not be negative, but be positive in the outcome for everyone concerned. You want to add something, Bill?
Just quickly, yes. Well, first of all, the $100 million, I know that the people who contacted me, I know them personally, but I don't know the people who supposedly have the $100 million. So what people say and what the people do has to be verified, of course. So it could be just blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's one thing. But certainly last Thursday, I was in Zurich and had a meeting with SCX, which is a regulated Swiss crypto exchange. You can Google it, scx.ch. I had a meeting with them and they primarily wanted to know if we had Bitcoins to sell. I said, well, I'm certainly not a seller of Bitcoin, and the people I know are not sellers of Bitcoin, because they had large institutional investors who wanted to buy large amounts of Bitcoin, and that's the real deal. I was actually at their office in Zurich, a very nice office overlooking the lake, overlooking the Zurich Lake. And they were the real deal. They had their regulated fund, I think Switzerland's first regulated fund, SCX. And they were the real deal, had large institutional investors wanting to buy large sums. And I said, well, I can't help you there. Maybe I can connect you with some. And the person I said today, I mean, they deal with this, of Asian contacts, etc. But he said, we've got one at the moment, and that's only 300. Well, the 300 Bitcoin's a long way from 100 million. But anyway, it's out there. But when you start looking at these charts predicting, the prices where it could go to, now whether it does or doesn't, I don't know. but I'm diversified and I'm looking at for a long-term hold on this, and that's my strategy towards that. You know, I mean, for the Bitcoin that I have, I'm certainly not liquidating, but that's all I've got to say. But in respect to the people who put large sums in, well, I mean, okay, we have to be responsible for our actions, and we should certainly do our due diligence. But I also feel for the people. Greed is a strong emotion, the view that we're going to buy this one stock. And I remember from the 1990s that this one share, if I buy this one share, it's going to go from 30 cents up to $10 because the broker told me so. It's a strong motion to control. I've been caught there myself, Keithy, to be quite honest, but I learned from those lessons of the 1990s, and Robert Kiyosaki too, because I lost one of my purchases with him. I lost everything on one deal, but I picked up on the other, hence diversification. And that's why we're coming out with these new products later on in the year, give people diversification. So while this isn't paying so well at the moment, we've got something else that will be able to pay you strongly. That's really the whole idea. But I've spoken enough now. I'm going to pass it over to yourself and Claudia and Nikolai.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, you're right. We've all lost at some stage. If you don't have your losses, then you don't gain experience from the losses to help you in the successes. I will go to you, Claudia. You've always got your finger on the pulse with what's going on in the crypto world. You know anyone who wants to sell a lot of Bitcoin?
No, I don't. And if then I would sell it probably to gold. So I would actually purchase more gold, which I believe people still forgetting about it. And I just don't get it why. So imagine you would have had some gold. You go now to Venezuela, you sell the gold so much more about the real price where it is, or well, not the real artificial price. So again, you have always heard me talking about gold. I didn't set so strong like Bill said, don't put in what you can't afford to risk. But I always mentioned it, and I always said diversify in gold, but people don't listen because people want to make money yesterday, not today, yesterday, and they want to become a millionaire yesterday. So at the moment we are on a crossroads. So basically Bitcoin has been, it had a little bit of a rise to $6,600, right? The last week or so. But we are at the moment, when I listen to my guys, I listen to, or either it goes down or either it goes up. And it could well be a false bull flag. So it could actually be that it has because it's on a very critical point at the moment. So it could actually go very, very likely to 7,500, 7,600. And we need 7,650 in order to be 29 cents, so meaning profitable, not 28 cents, but 29 cents actually to make money. We needed to at 7,650 at the moment. And so that could be very, very likely happening because right now we are under resistance. And if not, well, we're going to go probably another leg down. And then we could have another false bear flag breakout. So that all could happen. I don't know. And when we don't know. Yeah, but I still, of course, encourage people get into gold. Gold is cheap, probably even getting a little bit cheaper in the few months coming ahead because the dollar is rising because of, again, it's another long discussion we have to have. I can't put it in a few words. It's just not possible, but dollar's probably going to go up. And that, of course, lets gold go down. But eventually, of course, there will be a turnaround and everything will be not looking so well for days who hold on fiat currencies. But for days who hold on gold and cryptocurrency, I think it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, spot on. It is 7,650 is a target we're looking for, and maybe that's good news you got for us that it'll get there soon. What I want to ask Nikolai is, you can unmute your mic there, Nikolai, is you're 22, you've been to Robert Kiyosaki, you've joined Swiss Gold Global 6 months, you've got goals, dreams, you've got plans in place, you're focused, you're motivated, you're charged up, you're doing your own videos. That's one person. What about the rest of your friends at your age group, guys and girls? What are they doing? Are they doing the same as you, exactly the same as you, or are 20% of the people you know same as you, focused, want to get ahead, want to realize that they're not going to be able to work for 30, 40, 50 years, earning $50 an hour, that's not a reality? Or are the majority of your friends just, oh, well, whatever, I'll just get a job and I'll try and rent a house and maybe get married and maybe. what's the percentages with your friends, mate?
Well, good question, Gibby, because it's actually something that with this mentality, you kind of look back of how you were before, and you're like, your eyes are more open, you're looking over the wall. So you see how people, the perception of people when you're talking about different topics, that there is not like, hi, how are you? Good, thank you. How's life? Good, thanks. That's, small talk, that's all. It's not like, let's go business, let's go create, let's go dreams, let's go, up and up and up, rise. A lot of people stick to to the easy. I have a job, I pays well, I'm happy. I look forward to Friday every time, to the weekend, and then Monday again, annoying. But I think like, okay, so answer to your question, I have like 10% of my friends which are rising, so like they know what's the future. They look into things. They like, they want to grow, they want to be better, they want to improve themselves, they want to be free in the future. But at the same time, something that I have figured out is that I respect each person has his time. Like I know you through your whole life, you have been like, related with business and hope to sell, and that's great. That's pretty good. Now you have a very strong pillar within yourself of knowledge, which is your greatest asset. But a lot of people doesn't, they have different timing, until certain things happen in their life, or until certain people arrive to their life, their eyes are open to these opportunities that they have in the future. So what I do in my videos is motivate people to achieve to that point that I achieved, because it wasn't from one day to another one. Like it took a while to get into the mindset, to like enroll myself and surround myself in my environment with knowledgeable people like you guys, and like following people that are with that mindset. Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Bob Proctor. A good trick that I'm gonna share right now that I have it in my mind is that on Facebook, if you want to stop procrastinating, or if you find yourself procrastinating in Facebook, follow these people, go to their page, go to, let's say, Bill Rowell, go to Claudia, or go to Kitty's page. They share very, very knowledgeable things all the time. So you go follow, and instead of putting follow default, which is sometimes appears in your Facebook page, you put see first. So whenever they post, you're gonna see it first, as far as whenever you open your application. So if you follow 10 motivational, knowledgeable people, and you put them all see first, you're pretty much gonna, if you find yourself scrolling in Facebook, you're gonna keep scrolling of all knowledge, of all motivation, of rising up, and then you will know that, oh, I'm procrastinating. So you will get out of that, and you will start taking action towards what you want. So it's just little things that helps on your mindset to some of these things that help in your mindset in forward to achieve what you want. So what I do, is motivate people to do this one. So I am open to take this to anyone. So if I talk to you and I talk to you about crypto, and you're like, oh yeah, and you ask questions, I'm happy to help you. Some people it's a bit more close. You told them, and you can tell by the body language, you can tell by the voice, you can tell by the eyes. Did you tell them something? You're like, oh yeah, nice. Like not very interested. So I know it's what I'm here to do, is to guide people to be a better self. But if you don't want to right now, because that's not their time, as I was telling you before, that's totally fine. So I offer you the information. If it's not your time, your will is good for you. Enjoy how you are right now. But if you want to rise, or you want to know more, well, come back to me, and I'm happy to help you. So
who you remind me of?
Who's that?
Just the way you look, not the way you speak. You look like a Latino Tony Robbins. Because you're a big, tall. How tall are you?
6'3", 6'4".
6'3", 6'4". You've got your head looks very similar to Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I know.
Your teeth are very similar as well, and you don't stop talking like he does as well, which is a good thing, because all you talk is positivity, which is why it's great having you in the team. So 10% yes, 90% no, not their time at the moment. Is that what you would say?
Yes. Yeah. So first of all, yes, I do. I feel like I look at Tony Robbins, and you know how it is, Kitty. You always have to share the love and always share light. and people will find the light as well. So you just have to be bright towards people. So yeah, so a little bit of percentage of my friends, they're like, I'm like, yeah, nah. But like I went with a couple of friends to Robert Kiyosaki, and we just wait, like they just were a bit more eye open about investments in the future. Like, you know, one of them has a child and he wants to like invest in real estate, invest in property. But now he saw different areas where he can invest now. Not only crypto, because I told him about what's incoming with Cisco Global. The very important the options that they have now to invest to get into cryptocurrency now while it's low, while it's like pretty much not knowledgeable, like it's not as popular pretty much, like hasn't been embraced, it hasn't been adopted. So I told them now is the time. I'm teaching people and I'm getting you ready for that change. So back to it, if you're ready to change, that's fine. If not, well, that's all right. You will see in the future what do you miss. But yeah, they're having that mindset now. And we actually talked yesterday. We were like, we're gonna get along. We gotta get together every, once a fortnight at least, and do just like a brainstorm, just like ideas, write things down. If you're thinking something like, oh yeah, what about this? And then the researchers straight away in the computer, like get that knowledge and get that momentum, get that action on, and like build up. They are my business partners pretty much, because we all have the same mentality, which is another very important thing for creating your business, having a great team. Like the four of us, we just like flowing mentality between, like on camera, of course, but it's amazing how we just like connecting the information. It's great. I feel very good right now. I feel very, very happy to be here in the team and speaking knowledge with you guys. So yeah, it's amazing, and hopefully more people is getting into that mindset of looking at the future without losing the present. Because a lot of people look into the future, it's like, oh yeah, my goals, oh yeah, I want this, I want that, but they live in that cloud without being in the present. So they miss things in the present, they're blind for the present from the opportunities because they're looking too much in the future. So what has helped me is put my goals, knowing what I want, and stay like plant that seed in my mind, in my subconscious, but then live the present. And whenever I remember, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. And like remember it, but like back on myself, because you miss opportunities, like on Bitcoin, like if it's 1 second difference, if you're buying and selling, it's one second difference from making 7,000 profit than just dropping to 3,000 and losing all,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, there's no doubting you're full of enthusiasm, Nikolai, which is very, very positive to hear coming from a young lad. I mean that in the nicest way, young lad like yourself, and trying to be an influencer. And that's what you listen to Gary Vaynerchuk, don't you? Gary V. Gary
Vaynerchuk, yes.
A very good tip on Facebook to see first for the top 5 people that you have faith and get motivation from, to see them first on your posts. So when you do log into Facebook, if you have to, that you're exposed to positivity straight away, not negativity, which is a lot of negativity on Facebook, unfortunately. That's a great tip. And being an influencer is what Gary Vee says. And you at your age, being an influencer in your sphere is a powerful motivating thing for yourself. So well done, mate. So well done. Thanks for coming on tonight. Now we've rambled for 15 minutes, so it's time to say goodbye. So any last things, Claudia, you want to say before we say farewell?
Well, Gary Vee certainly, he's a great guy. I saw him myself live. I was actually at his speeches one day, so I have certainly his signed book. Didn't make a picture because I'm not a great picture taker, but certainly great information, and that's the point. You can be, if you have mining contracts and you really did put a lot into it, or like more that you could actually afford to lose, but you just have to go on with life. I mean, and again, like Bill said, I wouldn't advise necessarily to sell the Bitcoin, because if you believe first of all, in the concept, well, you should be in it. But hey, that's just the way it is. I mean, oh gosh, if I could tell you how much things I bought in the past on all those tech shares, and the money I lost. I mean, you know, that's money like some people put in like at a house. I did lost in that, but hey, that's not a loss. It's actually a learning experience that I wouldn't do it anymore that way I did it, but instead of really diversify. And there's no shortcut to riches. There's no shortcut to, okay, I'll get into that company and I'm tomorrow going to be a millionaire. It just doesn't work that way. And even though we have those people all with their rev share companies, and I mean, what is it? Is it a solid product? Is it a tangible product? Yeah, they can make some short money short term, but they're ripping off other people. So I'm not sure if I would want to go there either. So the better way is actually, as of course Nikolai mentioned, and that is looking at some guys such as Robert Kiyosaki, who has a vast knowledge, of course, in the different things, as of real estate, as of gold, silver, as of now he's starting with crypto as well, which is really great. He actually embraces crypto now, and yeah, having a positive mindset, and no matter what, that's a learning lesson. See it as a learning lesson, and go on, move on. There's great things coming out with Swissquote Global, great things to even further diversify. Again, we have gold and silver, and I do am a very strong believer in gold and silver. It will not go away, even though some crypto people say it's going to go away. Gold and silver is not going to go away. It's very undervalued at the moment. So certainly a way to diversify and keep on. Meanwhile, of course, Swissquote Global is bringing out new products. My tip.
Thank you, Claudia. Good positivity as always. Thanks for coming on today. I know you give your time to us just about every week now, which is really good. Week number 53. Imagine when we get to week number 120. That'll be like 2 years in. What will we be talking about then? I often have this conversation with once a year with Paul Weeks, who's normally on. We sit down once a year. Around about August, October, we seem to do it. We sit down, we go and have lunch together, and we have a couple of drinks, something to eat, and then we surmise the year that's gone. Then we say, well, where are we going to be in 12 months from now? What do you think our opportunities are going to be? What can you see in the future that you've been talking to people about? We start to not rub the crystal ball, but plan for the next 12 months, because we know there's exciting opportunities. We say, well, this is business we've had here, that's sort of we've made some good money from there. Now we're in this business now. Where's this going to take us? What's the income going to accept? What have we got to do to expand this business? What do we have to do to increase the business? We talk in this mode all the time, and that's why Paul and I get on so well. We have a great team, and then Nikolai joining this Brisbane team we've got. We want people thinking the same as we do. It's not about what happened yesterday. It's not about what happened 10 minutes ago, because unfortunately you cannot change that. What you did last year, last week, last month it's set in stone. You cannot change it. I bought this phone. Perhaps I made the mistake and bought the wrong model. Too late. I bought this phone. That's it. I've got to live with this, make some more money, and buy the next one up if I want to. I've got to do whatever I've got to do to change whatever I want going forward. And I can make those decisions right now. The minute from now, the hour from now, when I wake up in the morning, what am I going to do in the morning? First thing, I got to get up and get my 2 dogs out and get them walking so they get puffed out so I can go and do some business, so they're happy sleeping at home and not ripping up the backyard and terrorising the neighbours and ripping my washing off the line or something like that. So we've got to get these positive-minded people around. It's great having Claudia in the group with us. And Nikolai, just a very, I don't know if you can do this, mate, but a very, very brief summation to finish. The young Tony Robbins from Colombia.
Oh, yeah. Tony Robbins says. Well, I do want to add a few things before we leave. About what Bill was talking about, government manipulation of money by inflation is something that Robert Kiyosaki pointed out and a lot of the other speakers as well, about how there was a graphic. So you see pretty much the value of dollar 100, let's say 100 years ago, $1 worth $1, and it was literally peaking down, and the money making was pretty much picking up. So it was like a V, and now like 2018, the value of $1 is 4% of what it was 100 years ago. So it's nothing like it's going down more down deep down. And then after that, he puts a graphic of like how the value of each different fiats like euro, yen, or US dollars has fell down over years, and gold has just been super stable. So it's definitely something that I'm trying to open the eyes people, and I want you guys who's watching us to see is that this is a like you're building your wealth for your future. If you're having a dream, that's what I'm gonna do. I have a dream on like a couple of years, so I'm just gonna put my savings there because it's gonna be safe. Nothing is gonna affect it. And it passed the idea. I didn't ask this before because I know we're short of time. But I wanted the opinion of Bill and Claudia because on the conference they was speaking something that in a few years is gonna be a market crash in a couple of years, in 1 or 2 years. And if this will affect, like if we're in cryptocurrency, will crypto be affected by this crash? Or will be what I think that is we're gonna be the cloud there just floating. It's like fell down. We just like, yeah, nothing happened. Decentralized, baby.
All right. So you want to ask Bill that question? Okay. Well, thanks, Nikolai, for coming on. We'll throw that question to Bill. That Robert Kiyosaki reckons there's going to be a crash global crash in 2 years, 1 to 2 years. That's his thinking. How's it going to affect cryptocurrency, if at all, or will that affect it in some way? What's your opinion there, Bill?
It's a great question, Nikolai, Keithy. Well, Robert Kiyosaki's been speaking. I mean, many of the experts, and Claudia knows this as well, it's difficult to predict when, the exact when. The system's manipulated so much to keep it alive, money printing, and so many variables, of course. In theory, it probably should have happened years ago, to be quite honest. I mean, 2008, it should have happened, of course, but they bailed the banks out, which brings us on to another discussion that gets to that situation. In fact, we have more debt now. The bubble is bigger now than what it was in 2008 when the banks were bailed out. It's more dangerous now than back then. That's the reality of it. Now, they have what we call now, even if you Google, because I know there's many Australians on this call, Google Australian banks bail-in. Search bail-in, because Australia recently made legislative changes. Most people don't know about it. There's only 7 people present at Parliament to pass this legislation, which means, what does bail-in means? Means if the banks are in trouble, they can take your money to bail the banks out. Now, this is not conspiracy theory. This is not blah, blah, blah. This is a real deal. It happened in Cyprus in 2008. Cyprus was a test case. So anyone that had more than $100,000 in their account, the bank took that money to bail out. The banks took that money to bail out the banks, made by law. That really set a standard, of course. And now throughout the world, countries have changed legislation to account for bail-in. So what will happen is the taxpayers, your savings can be used to bail out the banks into the future. And right now, as I said, the world debt, the bubble is much bigger now, the housing bubble, etc., is bigger now than what it was in 2008. So we're living in very fragile times, but they have ways on the monetary side to manipulate things to keep it artificially afloat. But eventually, a balloon will get to what's the term? Stratographic altitudes, where it'll eventually burst, and when it bursts, it falls very, 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 very fast. And most of the people who are in the now are aware of this and they're protected. But who pays? We pay. The average people pay. They're the ones that always pay. We are the ones that always pay. So Robert Kiyosaki is absolutely right. There's no question about it. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. Is it 2 years? I don't know. But his message of diversification, being involved with decentralized, if you own gold, it's unencumbered. If you've got gold in your hand, it's yours. It's no one else's debt. If you own fiat currency, it's someone else's debt. It's debt. And that's a bit of a complex concept to understand. And then we can't get into detail now as we're on the hour, I know. But I think owning a combination of decentralized assets such as cryptocurrency, particularly Bitcoin, because that is the fundamental one, and some gold as an insurance policy. And I'm not telling people to sell the house and buy gold, okay? it's a small part of a portfolio. It's protection. It's an insurance policy. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10% of your current cash position, whatever it might be. Think of a long-term position. The same with Bitcoin, as what Nikolai is actually saying. If you own real estate, make sure you're not overburdened with debt, because if interest rates start to rise, and they will definitely start to rise, it'll start to tumble very, very, very quick. So debt is your burden. You've got to get on top of that, to be quite honest, and build up your savings and solid assets and different things. I was going to say one other thing is, Robert Kiyosaki, I mean, if Nikolai does that, it would be fantastic, because the world needs young people who are coaching the contrarian view, which are actually coaching and sharing the message other than the status quo that's fed to us by governments and bankers and everything else. It's very, very, very important information. Back in 1999, I flew to Sydney, stayed at the Hilton Hotel because there was an event there by Tony Robbins. I paid 5,000 Australian dollars to go to that event. I was very excited to go there. It was for a week. I get there, Robert and Tony Robbins wasn't even there. He was on the video screen. I was so disappointed. Paid $5K to get there, and Tony wasn't there. But the content and his facilitators were fantastic. The content was still very, very exciting. The content was still very real. I learned a lot. And as Claudia will tell you, it's a network that you also meet. You meet like-minded people who are different thinking people. It's a network that you also meet. And it's quite often said, your net wealth will be based on, maybe your six closest associated friends as well. I think Jim Rohn said that. So reaching out into a different network, into these groups, is really important. People from different parts of the world, people who have experience maybe in real estate, people have experience maybe in equities or different things, cryptocurrencies. It's very diverse, and I'm sure Nikolai had that experience.
Yeah, fantastic, Bill. I Googled it, and it was passed in Australia on the 20th of February this year. The new bail-in law. Headline: How safe is your cash now? ? And it says there was only 7 senators present at the vote.
Correct.
Only 7 present, and it got passed. Wow.
Did you hear about that? Did you know that? Was it on the public news?
No, Bill.
No, this is what happens. This is what happens. And this is why it's important to have webcasts, and this is the important mission of Swiss Gold Global, not to create fear in people, but for people to understand on the bigger scale, you're always set up to going to be the payee. Okay, it means you're going to have to diversify into different things. It means it's going to have risk, but your biggest risk, as Robert Kiyosaki would say, is not to do anything, just to stay in the system and think it's going to look after you. That's the biggest risk, to be quite honest.
Absolutely. Well, let's leave on a positive note. It's fantastic as always, Claudia, for having you on and giving us your information. I know you're a very, very motivated woman. We need more motivated women like yourself from all over the world to join us in Swiss Gold Global, because we're going in one direction, and that's a positive direction. All bumps and bruises, whatever we can get along the way, we're going to cop it, but we're going to keep going in the one direction. It's great to have you on for the first time, Nikolai. Tony, the young Tony Robbins. Positive things for you coming ahead. I know you. And Bill says the right things. Make sure you surround yourself with people who are like-minded, like yourself, and you cannot fail. Bill, it's always a pleasure to have you on, mate, to give us your insight of what's going on and of the plans we've got coming up. I know it's going to be a couple of crazy months. We're hitting the end of August now. So Saturday is September, and then bang, we're into 30 days only, and then we're on to October. So there's very, very little time that you've got before everything is up and running. So that's pretty exciting, though. Pretty exciting that within a couple of months we'll have a new shape, new form, and new energy to add to the energy and the shape we've got. We're just moving forward in a slightly different, not direction, but a different mode, if you like, an expanding mode to give us all a bit more diversification. And to top that off, all we need is Bitcoin to go to 77650 the next week, and everybody's happy. So thank you for your time again, Bill. It's always a pleasure to have you on. That's it, folks. It's an hour and a half, an hour and 5 minutes. Hey, thanks for watching, everybody. We've got some great feedback, and I put a couple of links up there that a couple of people asked for. So use those links, spread them around, and thank you, folks, for watching. Have a great positive week, and we'll see you next week for episode number 54. Take it easy, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.